Somewhere on a rooftop in Antwerp, Belgium, a maintenance worker looked up and froze. A bird's nest, woven from anti-bird spikes, hundreds of them, ripped straight from the building and rebuilt into a home. Anti-bird spikes. You've seen them, rows of metal needles bolted to ledges, signs, and rooftops. They're a global industry worth millions, designed to do one thing: keep birds off human structures. They are part of a broader design philosophy called hostile architecture, structures built not for shelter but for exclusion. In July 2021, a biologist named Florian Heemstra received a photo that would consume his research for the next 2 years. It came from a patient at the University Hospital Antwerp, UZA. On a rooftop terrace just above the hospital's maternity ward sat a magpie nest unlike anything documented before. Heemstra, a doctoral student at Naturali's Biodiversity Center in Leiden, had spent years studying how animals adapt to urban environments. But this was different. When Heemstra's team finally got their hands on the nest and brought it to the lab, the numbers were staggering. 61 individual spike strips, 604 metal spikes, 16.72 meters of anti-bird material, all woven into a single nest. On the hospital rooftop above, you could see the scars, patches of bare glue where the strips had been violently torn away. But here's what haunted Heemstra. Anti-bird spikes are screwed or glued into solid masonry. They are not easy to remove, even for a human with tools. So how? Did a magpie do it? And more importantly, why? Was this a one-time accident? Or were birds everywhere learning to dismantle our defenses? The answer came from Rotterdam. A carrion crow nest discovered in 2021 contained 336 anti-bird spikes, stretching nearly 8 meters. Every single one still carried traces of industrial adhesive. These weren't dropped or found, they were taken. And then the team found a second nest, documented all the way back in 2009, 16 spikes, same city, same species. This wasn't new. It had been happening for over a decade and nobody had noticed. But the real revelation wasn't just that birds were stealing spikes. It was how differently they used them. The magpies at the Antwerp hospital placed every spike on the outside of their nest dome, pointing outward like a fortress of needles. In nature, magpies build domed nests lined with thorny twigs to protect their eggs from predators, especially crows. The anti-bird spikes weren't just construction material. They were weapons, repurposed with surgical intent. The crows, though, took a different approach. They wove the spikes pointing inward, using them as structural scaffolding to lock twigs in place. The sharp tips faced away from the nest, never harming the birds inside. And then came the peregrine falcons. In 2018, researcher Jim Verkerk documented peregrines in the Netherlands collecting anti-bird spikes and using them as a pantry, impaling their prey on the metal needles, saving food for later. The spikes designed to starve birds were now being used to feed them. What Heemstra and his team were uncovering was not an isolated oddity. Nearly 200 bird species worldwide are known to incorporate human-made materials into their nests. As far back as 1933, a crow's nest was documented built almost entirely from barbed wire. This is urban evolution in real time, animals not just surviving in our cities, but actively mining them for resources. Plastic wrappers become waterproofing. Wire becomes reinforcement. And anti-bird spikes become armor. But there's a deeper thread here. Anti-bird spikes are cousins to anti-homeless spikes, to ledges studded with metal studs to prevent sitting, to benches divided by armrests to stop lying down. They share the same DNA, architecture designed to push something away. What the magpies of Antwerp reveal is the futility of that approach. Not because the spikes don't work on birds, they clearly do for a while, but because the birds are adapting faster than the architects. Every hostile intervention creates a selective pressure, and evolution responds. Today, both the Rotterdam crow nest and the Antwerp magpie nest sit preserved in permanent museum collections, the Natural History Museum, Rotterdam, and Naturali's Biodiversity Center. Artifacts of an arms race most people never knew was happening. 4 European cities, 3 bird species, over a decade of evidence. And the question that remains is not whether birds will keep outsmarting us, but what we'll build next and how long it will last. In the meantime, somewhere in a city near you, a bird is probably watching a ledge and planning.